All right. So we are here. Welcome to the NFTW podcast for the Big Bold Impact, brought to you by New Frontier Works, aka NFTW. My name is Sam, aka PonderMonster. I am one of the co-founders of NFTW, and I'm here with my good buddy Mitchell Valentine. How are you?
Oh man, so groovy. We're kicking off this here New Frontier Works, doing a podcast. We've been going a long ways with this. Mitch Valentine in Centennial, Colorado.
Yep.
Loving life.
Yep. Yeah. Sure are.
Loving where we're going. Things.
Yeah, so I'm in Los Angeles, and we have started this podcast to try to open up a dialogue about what we want to do with NFTs and sort of bring to the table something new that's more than just a JPEG, and start opening the idea of like what these are. And Mitch is the perfect person to sort of ask about diving into new avenues and trying to explain it and everything like that. I'm pretty new to all of this, relatively speaking. I am getting it. I have a couple of my own collections out there that I've made, which Mitch has helped me immensely with. And, we're together trying to do something a little bit new to bring some new things to the table when it comes to what they're able to do and unlock and stuff like that. So, uh, why don't you talk a little bit about what we're trying to do a little bit further, and I'm going to share a few things on Twitter to see if we can get some more people in here.
Yeah. So, NFTs, right? Like this weird mystical term that has it feels like it's become quite a loaded term actually these days. Some people, it makes them think that they're going to get rich. Some people think it's a get rich quick scheme. Some people think it's a pyramid scheme. Some people think it's just selling JPEGs. There's a lot of misconceptions about, I guess, what NFTs are, and they all seem to be like this weird sort of confusing high surface level debate that's not really actually talking about like what in the heck an NFT is underlying. It's quite interesting how NFTs, I think, have gone out to the world and to market, with people being, I guess they've started off being, I guess, in really kind of a confusing place. But so at the bottom of what an NFT actually is really just simply a record that written on a ledger that somebody owns some metadata. And that metadata can be a bunch of attributes of things. One of those attributes could be the URL to a picture. It could be a URL to an image. It could be, and then the attributes can be anything. They can be how many stars does this picture have? It's really relatively arbitrary. But at the end of the day, like an NFT, that's what an NFT is. It's literally it's written down in the ledger that this address is the current owner of this small piece of metadata. And
So, yeah,
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we've gotten into this weird world where people are then making a lot of money on selling these little chunks of metadatas to each other somehow. And I think the greedy nature of people have what we've seen as a result of it is this this race to sell JPEGs for $1 million, like that, and that's what people seem to now think that NFTs are. But I think what makes NFTs really deep and interesting isn't this strange, I don't know, bubble phenomena of creating this imaginary value on something, and everybody chases chases this rarity feature of this thing, and nobody understands anything about what they're doing. To me, that's all a huge distraction from what's really kind of interesting and novel
Yeah,
about like what NFTs really are and what they could do, like what
absolutely.
they could be useful for.
Yeah, it's and so you're coming into this sort of from a technical angle, from a coding angle. You have, you go to ETH Denver, you've been into crypto for like a while, trying to understand blockchains and contracts and everything that it
Right.
can do. I came into this as an artist, and that's sort of what drew me in, and what also I think has drawn a lot of us in. And not that we're um getting it wrong as to why we're here, but we've definitely, we're maybe very one-sided on like why we're doing what we're doing. Like for me as an
Right.
artist, this seems to be like, hey, this is a way that I can possibly make money on my art and royalties on my art. And that's definitely one avenue that I think NFTs are really good for, at the bare bones of like what these contracts and stuff can do. And I think that's sort of the phenomenon behind a lot of this. But maybe it's also my understanding for like these things that are blowing up, like the apes world, is that it sort of maybe lets you into some sort of club or grants you access to something. And I think that is what more of what you're interested in is not so much the um the art flipping side, but that there's potentially something behind it, that these codes that you buy behind these images are like keys, and these keys can unlock a door. And that's something really huge here that a lot of people aren't really seeing, and that's what I think you're interested in trying to explore more. Is that right?
100%. Exactly. It's not just this like chase to make JPEGs expensive and see if we can all run up the price of a picture that somebody did of an ape. That is definitely not what made Bored Ape Yacht Club interesting. It wasn't the fact that Paris Hilton and Eminem bought them for millions of dollars. You're right. There's something about owning them that's meaning something. And I think a lot of
Right.
that part is really still we're just getting the reveal on what
Hmm.
that kind of could look at like. Because what's cool about these NFTs is, yeah, you own something unique, but that uniqueness can also translate into um, being the keys to all sorts of interesting experiences. And I think that what's fascinating about NFTs is as they start to become keys to real world experiences, one, and virtual experiences. I mean, I think maybe the virtual experiences part seems obvious. Everybody knows about maybe NFTs are going to be in the metaverse. And then people kind of get the idea, but wait a minute, I get that I buy skins in Fortnite. So, like, all of a sudden taking a skin out of Fortnite and maybe being able to use the skin in, you know,
Hmm.
some other game that I'm playing 100% makes sense to me. Like, so the kids are starting to get this like digital transportability of it. But then what's not really becoming clear is, people aren't realizing is, well, wait, there's a real world. So what if these digital ownerships could be translated to, metaverse digital experiences that happen in Roblox, and then they happen in Fortnite, then they happen on my Facebook page, but then they could, whatever metaverse they created or whatever. But then also there's this notion of, how is it translate or relate to real world things? And I mean,
Right.
we do get ideas like maybe real estate somewhere where that's starting to seem like a fascinating aspect, and people are buying the digital land, and maybe that could relate to real world land. But people have sold homes as NFTs. Those transactions have already transpired. We've seen real estate be related. But I do think that where NFTs really get exciting and interesting to me is this, where where real world tokenized things can exist in both the digital realm and have digital implications, but then also translate into something you do in your day-to-day life that isn't just about when you put on your VR goggles, you know.
Right. Yeah.
That's where it like starts to blow your mind. What if you go to the bar and your token is also still worth something at the real bar or the
Right.
real concert or the real park or the the real
Yeah.
store? That starts to get really interesting, and that's where NFTs become the doorway to that. Right?
Yeah, it almost seems like the possibilities are limitless, but it's also trying to um, adjust our brains to think that these can be the future. Even just getting involved in NFTs is pretty complicated to get started. A lot of people don't know how to have a wallet or a crypto wallet or what that even means, like how do dollars turn into this thing,
Right?
and then like what does this address do. That's a lot of learning. You may
Sure.
not remember it or feel it anymore because you've been doing this for so many years, but for me, I mean, this took hours and hours and hours and hours of like looking up and learning and like, okay, so how do I get a
Sure.
MetaMask? How do I like what's a phantom wallet? How do I, get
Right.
money from here to there and like how to have enough gas to buy some ether. But when you don't have ether to get the gas and like it's
You
like
just
you
said like
need
7 words that are like, well, wait, what was that? And what was it? A gas? And you said we're
yeah,
gonna an
exactly.
ether. Where did this guy
And
ether come from? Huh?
yeah, and these are all
Yeah.
these exactly, and like these are all these things that like I
Right.
had to learn each
MetaMask.
word
What?
along the way and what they are, and you know, uh, there's a handful of us people out here that are have made it to the other side, so we can like understand and
Right.
talk to each other about this, but um to get to this point, it's going to take a long time to get like the general public on board. um and so this kind of leaves this open space for
Yeah.
us to sort of fiddle around with what the possibilities are, so that when everyone gets here we can be like, look what this does.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's trippy about the crypto world for me over the last many years, I am a geek, I'm a coder, I will go do all the deep research. I'll try to understand the hard stuff, and I like to do that. And then I do think that the cryptocurrency universe in of itself, it started out as trading, right? So you had to be into trading to do that. And that immediately kept a lot of people out of it, right? And then crypto became DeFi, became all these other interesting things. And all of a sudden, it's on Robinhood and people are buying Doge, and so like there's this sort of like, oh, but there's this trading thing happening, that's people
Yeah.
understanding it. Then all of a sudden, because this NFT thing and like people are buying these things, but there's a lot of confusion about there's a lot of it always felt like there was so much barrier for just normal people to really get involved with crypto. It was either too technical, too money-ishy, finance-ishy, or whatever. And then even NFTs have started to seem like
Right.
it seems like they turn a lot of people off because, hey, like you said, you have to get a wallet set up and there's a lot of hurdles to jump through. And a lot of the people that are doing that are doing it because they're kind of greedy and they think they might be able to make a fast buck on it. So that's
Yeah.
pushing people through. But
Keep
I
talking.
think we're struggling definitely with the whole, you know, what is going to get what just gets everyday people into it? What is the barrier that's preventing just regular access, because
Mhm.
I think, and is there a place for that? Is
Right.
there a place for normal people to use NFTs? Is there a
It,
place for it just to be common for people to have a wallet just like they have an email?
absolutely.
And
And
I think the answer is yeah, there is,
well,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And the more that I've been diving into this and learning more and more about it, I get the exact same feeling that I did when the internet first became a thing.
Right.
And you're just like, what is this? Why do people use it? What's an email? Why would some send something digitally that you can just send a letter like, why would I want a digital version? It sounds stupid now, but
Sure.
but like the internet also seemed like a weird phase when it first came out. But what I was gonna say, also sort of touch on um, everyone's sort of attention to this right now with like trying to make a quick buck. It's a really interesting perfect storm, I think, of how popular it is now, especially I think in part due to the pandemic. Um, for a number of reasons, everyone's sitting at home and they're trying to like look at stuff and learn stuff. Also, a ton of people are really hurting for money. A lot of people
Sure.
lost jobs. A lot of people are looking for new ways to make money. And so all of a sudden we have this giant worldwide audience on this new thing. And I think what Beeple was like the first one that started making big news.
Yeah.
And as far as I remember anyways,
Sure.
and everyone's like, wait, what is this guy doing? What are these things that he's making? So um I I think the time is now that it finally is coming to fruition, that we are looking for something new and we're ready, and we don't
Sure.
know what's going on. And this the whole thing behind it is the decentralization,
Right.
um, which is something that I am still trying to understand and fully grasp, and for everyone else to understand too. Can you explain like what exactly decentralization is, and maybe some of the benefits that we have to look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I think to understand decentralization, you want to first understand centralization. And the easiest way to think about what centralization is simply things like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, where even from a computer perspective, like when you type in facebook.com, right? Like you go to their one computer and it's the door that gets you into everything that happens, right? And so
Hmm.
every time you want to do something with Facebook, you go, Facebook, can I have permission? And Facebook goes, sure. Or for a lot of people these days, they go, no, you're screwed. Nah.
Yep.
Like, and the reasons why they might say nah, maybe it's because they don't like your politics. Maybe it's because they don't like your geography. Maybe it's because they don't like your your current political scheme that you live in. I
Hmm.
mean, there's all sorts of interesting reasons why these centralized systems decide not to let you play, right?
Right.
And we have centralized things like Facebook and these, being deplatformed and right, and Instagram and all that. But then there is also money where this is happening. I mean, you got PayPal, you got Venmo, you got, these
So is centralized
centralized.
money like the money that we have, like that's issued by the federal government?
Well, it's more like how you interface with your own money. I mean, if you have a pile of cash in your own safe at your own house, I mean, I guess there's nobody preventing you from going and getting your cash. But
Hmm.
uh, nowadays, I use credit unions. We've got multiple credit unions we use, and one of the credit unions we use just changed to a different bank. And then in the meantime, you can't use your bank for a couple days. And then you're just like, dude, I kind of need my money. And they're kind of like, yeah, we're going to be another bank tomorrow, and you're just going to have to wait. And you're like, okay,
Because you don't have any choice, right?
because that centralized bank is holding my money right now and I don't really
Hmm.
get to choose. Now, one thing about Ethereum is it's available 24 hours a day, whoever has the internet.
Right.
Okay, let's say, and if you want to use different RPCs, which are connections to the internet, you could use Infura, which is owned by Consensus and is
What's an
centralized.
RPC?
Well, that's the computer that you talk to, that's sort of the intermediary between you and the blockchain. It's a
Okay.
computer. Now
Gotcha.
you have to have, unless you're running your own node, which you're welcome to run your own node in your own house, right? And then your node does have to talk to other nodes, but there's millions, thousands of other nodes willing to just gladly talk to you, and they all you can reach consensus with them, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so there's no government, there's no bank, there's no Venmo, there's no PayPal, there's no Zing, there's no these things to get to say, oh, sorry, we're not available today. You can't use us in this jurisdiction. Now we are
Right.
seeing things like MetaMask is not allowing business maybe in Russia or in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
MetaMask is censoring. Is MetaMask centralized? Yes, it is centralized. So okay, just because you're using the blockchain, you're using decentralized protocol, you're using a centralized tool to access it. Like
Okay.
these things don't necessarily exist totally in a vacuum. And when you use MetaMask, I mean, you get that you're using consensus's nodes to talk to the blockchain. So and they could take that permission away from you. But the
Right.
interesting thing about Ethereum is you go, well, screw you, then I'll go find another way. I'll run my own node, or I will use a different client to get there. There's, a myriad of other ways that you can
Mm-hmm.
go around the problem. And so even if one, provider isn't available today, you can go solve it yourself. Or you could even just not use somebody else as a provider and take ownership of yourself. You cannot go and just be your own bank and
Right.
go
Right.
trade dollars out there. It doesn't work that way, son.
Yeah.
They're very quickly going to shut you down.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of
Absolutely.
rules that says no, 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 no. You're not going to be a bank. We will never let you be a bank. But you can run your own Ethereum node. So
So what
that's
is
what
it? So what is a node exactly? Because that's something that's a new term that I didn't know before I started talking to you.
it's just a computer, man.
So all right. So
It's
and then that.
it's one computer that talks to the other computers. It's a node in a network. I mean, just think of it,
Oh,
and
okay.
don't overthink of it. What do you know the word node to be? Like on a tree, it's one of the points where the
Okay.
branches
Yeah.
branch,
That's
right?
perfect. Yeah, it's a perfect explanation for it. Yeah.
And so when you run a node, a blockchain, like to demystify blockchains, all blockchain is it's just like your checkbook, right? You write a
Okay.
ledger, you write,
Mm-hmm.
and then a block would be like a page in your checkbook, right? But
Mm-hmm.
imagine we're all sharing the same checkbook, and so basically we're like, okay, we got Sammy wants to make a transaction, so you got to get it in the page, and then I want to get a transaction, so I'm going to try to put it on the page, but there's only
Mm-hmm.
like so many lines, right? So that's
Right.
this whole notion of gas. Basically, you pay that there is a in a block in Bitcoin. There's a limited size block, and Ethereum is a limited size block. It's a little bigger. It's the same thing. Everybody's rushing to try to get their transaction written on that next page of the ledger. That's it.
Gotcha.
And so you're competing to do that. Now, the people that get to write that page is whoever mines that block. And so they've basically got, everybody's requests to change the ledger, which is, Sammy wanted to send $1 to Mitch, and Mitch wanted to, I don't know, convert one ERC20 token into an NFT, whatever we wanted to do.
Yeah.
We tried to get that written into a block, and that block is just this ledger. Now every node has a copy of the ledger, which is a huge file, by the way. It's grown to be very, very large, as you could imagine, and
Oh yeah.
continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
And none
So
of it ever goes away.
no, because you keep the past. That's all
Yep.
part of, you just add a new block, add a new block, add a new block, add a new block. And the
Mm-hmm.
new block contains a reference to all the previous blocks. So it's kind of eating, like it's like, you know what I mean?
Okay. Yep.
And when you mine a new block, you're just writing a new page, adding a new page, adding a new page. And that page can only say, okay, it says, look, on the last page, Sammy had 10. 10 minus 1 is, so on the next page, Sammy now has 9 and Mitch has 1, right? And then
Right.
that's what the new page says. And if Sammy's had the signing authority for that account, and what would the signing authority be? Can you guess what that would be?
Whew. No.
Your private key, man, your seed.
Okay. So
So
that's all right. So this is where, yes. Okay, so this is
So
our
if you have that key, that seed, then you're the signing authority. So the way you prove that you have it is saying, I got the key. I can sign the transaction. Right. And the way that happens is a little mad, it's some cryptographically stuff that goes on in there. But at the end of the day, you can sign a transaction that says, and then that can be validated. Right.
Yeah.
So that's a part of the block. Right. In the ledger, it has Sammy, had 10 minus 1 over to Mitch, and then now he's got 9, and he signed it.
So
that's blockchain.
Just based on this principle, this is at the root of what's happening with the NFTs that most people know, and the JPEGs that are selling now.
Yep.
The cool thing that I've learned about these JPEGs, I'll just stay on that topic for a minute, that people are selling is that there's code behind it. I'm blanking on the term. The JSON files.
Sure.
Or, yeah. So like, I don't know if there's like a name for that, for the information behind it. But there's metadata. That's what it is. Okay. So these images, they have these specific metadata that is attached to it, which is extra cool. So if you get this image, like I'm working on a collection right now, and if you get this image and you look at the metadata, it has like a description and a story and like all the characteristic details, and this is a really kind of cool area to like hide secret messages or maps or codes or other little things that can be privileged information to either the buyer or have it be completely public. And this is sort of what you and I are playing with, is what can we contain within this code that can make it exciting for anybody. And we are working on a project right now called 420pro.world as sort of like a test client, I guess, to see like what we can do to like make these doors and portals available for these NFTs when you buy them. Like, okay, you now have this like special membership. Can you talk a little bit about what 420 Pro World is to you, and like what we're trying to do with it?
Yeah. So yeah, that next extension is what's interesting about an NFT is, and that signing of a key thing, right? So it turns out that if you can sign a key that reliably allows me to send a transaction from me to you, well, the underlying technology for that, did I just mute myself? No. Okay, sorry. The underlying technology for that is the same thing that you do when you encrypt a picture, right? Or you encrypt a file, right? So, when you encrypt something, right? And then the only person who can decrypt that file, right? The algorithm that they use to do that, it turns out that the same algorithm that we use to do the encryption of a picture, a message that the military uses to send messages to each other encrypted wise, right? It's the same algorithm that we use to do the blockchain. So what's cool about an NFT is you can encrypt content using those keys, and then you can reliably know that the only person who can actually decrypt that content is the person who owns that NFT at that given moment. So this is sort of like crazy stuff, right? Like, so what it means is I can sell you an NFT, and I don't know who you are out there, but I just know that the only person who can at the moment unlock a video, unlock a message, unlock a stream, unlock any digital content that could exist is the person who's currently owning that NFT at any given time. So what does that have to do with 420 Pro World? So we built this cool website where, here, let me share my screen.
Yeah, bring it up.
We built this cool website where because that fact is true, right?
Oh, look at that. There's our 420 Pro world. Beautiful.
Oh, look at that. There's a live caption going too. Oh, sweet. All right. So anyways, now we have these doors that we can basically reliably, the only way that you can unlock the digital content that is behind this door is by owning the NFT. And what that allows us to do is to actually have a decentralized ticketing system. So we can, in a way, we can sell tickets to people that we don't know who they are, and then they can have access to this content without us ever knowing about who they are. We never know that they access the content, and they're able to enjoy that, in a completely private way. And what's cool about that, I mean, for the example of 420 Pro Worlds, we're going to create learning content about, for example, how to grow this particular Caribbean Ultra strain of cannabis. And Uncle Stoner, who is the cannabis legend himself, who developed this genetics of cannabis, is actually going to teach you how to do that. Now, how do we keep that information? Why don't you just put it on YouTube? I mean, that's one possibility.
Yeah.
But the other possibility is you lock that content behind an NFT. You encrypt the content and you say, now only the people who purchase the NFT can actually unlock and learn about that video content. What's cool about that is Uncle Stoner now has a way of getting paid for sharing this very special knowledge that he's put a lot of years and effort into cultivating, not only the genetics themselves, but the knowledge of how to grow it. And so it's not something he necessarily wants to share on YouTube.
And it's incentive for the people to buy it, when people buy it, to not share it because they put their own money into this and saying, hey man, like, this is my information, I bought it.
Sure, exactly. They
And they may
protect
not
that
want to sell it.
knowledge too. And what's cool about it is, if when it comes time for their friend to go, well, how do I grow my Caribbean Ultra? And you go, well, I'm not going to tell you, but I'll sell you the NFT, right? And I'll sell you the NFT at a 50% discount. How about that? Right? You're my buddy. So I bought it for $42. I'm going to sell it to you for $21.
Yeah.
And you go, sweet, I'm done learning. I already read it. I already watched the videos. I read the articles. I followed the whole test procedure that there was. I played the game that you guys did. I did all these cool, fun, interesting, interactive digital experiences that only I was able to have because I was an NFT holder. But I've exhausted my love of the Caribbean Ultra, and I'm already growing it to huge amounts. So I don't need to know this anymore. But I want it on board you, right? So you want to join, you want all this success that I'm having. You want to grow these pounds and pounds of this great strain, right? But I don't really just want to give that to you for free. So how about you give me $21? Thanks. You gave me $21. I send you the NFT. Now you can go get in there and soak up all this knowledge yourself. And what's also cool is Uncle Stoner gets a royalty.
Oh, so, that's probably the best part about all these NFTs is the original creator or collaborators, they are always getting something, so that there's a little bump here and there, which is phenomenal.
And you got it. There's an incentive for you to kind of keep this stuff a secret. I mean, you can share with your friend if you want it. And there's nothing saying that you can't just send the NFT to your buddy for free. I mean, I don't know.
Yep.
We may make more restrictive contracts in the future that say that you can't. But nowadays, I mean, I think that's part of the elegance of a lot of this stuff. Yeah. And then, what's cool is too, we're able to, if you're able to get through. So let's see if I can get away with this right now. I think I've got everything connected.
All right, so you're logging into your MetaMask so that you can prove that you own one of these NFTs and go behind the portal.
Yeah. Oh, wait. What computer am I on? Hold on. I got to be careful doing this on live. But make a lot of noise while I'm typing. Okay. You change my password. That's fine. Just kidding. That's my local password. Oh, so that's a good thing to talk about. So what was the
Yeah.
password I just typed into my MetaMask, right? And should I
Right.
be concerned about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, that password encrypts my seed key that's on my local version. So you'd still have to hack into my computer even if you
Right.
knew that password I just typed, like, which it is conceivable. And even on a radio thing, like, you can take the sound of my keys and they can
Sure.
use AI and
Yeah.
reverse engineer what I typed and stuff like that. But you wouldn't be able to. You still wouldn't know my seed, and so you still really wouldn't be able to.
Right.
So here's the problem. This one is in my Ledger account. So
Oh, I see.
I need to
No
plug in my
problem.
Ledger, and I'm not gonna,
Yeah, don't worry
so
about that right
that's
now.
that whole other thing. But
Uh,
I
Yeah.
don't generally put things of value into my hot wallet, right?
Right.
And so
Yep.
this is my hot wallet that I just consigned, and it's got a small amount of money. It's in my
Mm-hmm.
browser. I'm not that freaked out about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not my whole kitty of money, right? It's just a little
Yeah.
hot wallet. But again, because we sent one of these NFTs into my Ledger wallet, I can't get through the door. But
Sure. Well, let's see. Let's take a minute here. We're about 30, so we are 36 minutes into this. I'm going to take a quick little break. I think it's good time for a little break for everyone. Gets a stretch and a water and a bathroom break, and I'll be right back.
All right. Nice.
Hey, welcome back. Yeah, I was like, I gotta go so bad. But yeah, so thank you for taking the time to show us a little bit about 420 Pro World, which we're working on with some really cool people, and hopefully that will grow like the weed seeds that are in it. Let's see, what else do we have going on right now there, Mitch?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that we're definitely at this sort of interesting crossroads of trying to understand, like, what is it about, I these NFTs that becomes really fun? What is the stuff that, is worth, hiding behind an NFT, I guess? What's it worth encrypting,
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are going to start to find out a lot of stuff, I mean, I think we're even going to find things like, Facebook and Instagram will be a lot cooler when I can basically encrypt my own pictures, and then I
Yep.
can decide whether you can access or view them at any given time, and I can even take that back from you.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't. But that no centralized entity like Facebook or Instagram would ever have the power to decide whether or not, for example, I can see Sammy's pictures or Sammy can see my pictures. That should be
Yeah.
something that's up between me and you,
Right.
right?
Which
And
which is a slippery slope. There's a lot of dangerous, scary shit out there.
yeah,
uh,
I agree with you, but
mhm.
is it scarier that anybody can share pictures with each other, or is it scarier that there's some guy named Mark who can decide whether or not you're allowed to
Mhm.
talk about your particular feelings about, I don't
Mhm.
know, violence or something like that? I
Yeah.
mean, like, I get that there's a lot of complexities to any of these issues, but I certainly don't want Marks and these kind of guys
Mhm.
making the choice of whether or not what I want to say is appropriate.
Yeah.
And I would rather say, look, Sammy G, is being a complete jerk, and I really just can't stand his opinion about these things. And so I mute you from my content. Now that's a power that I feel like I should have, right? Like I
Yep.
should be able to block you if you're being a bad player and I don't like what you're doing, then that's something, yeah, that I should do. And as an adult, I should be able to mute the other people and not have to listen to other people that I deem to be
Mhm.
obnoxious. Now, I would
Sure.
never mute you for example, but I would rather I want that power to decide who I'm going to mute and not. And I
Right.
don't necessarily want Mark Zuckerberg to decide for me. This
Right.
is where the problem lies. Now, what's weird about Facebook is, to me, I can share content and then I don't really know who can or can access it, right? Like I don't really know who has the keys. I mean, it kind
Mhm.
of seems like it's just my friends, but then it's like just my friends and whoever works at Facebook. But they're
Right.
not my friends.
Right.
But they get to see it and their moderators get to see it. But I don't know.
Mhm.
They're not my friends. So how is it that it's my friends and Facebook? But they're like, well, we're just opting ourselves in as friends. And it's like, no, 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 no. I didn't give you explicit permission to have my decryption keys to look at pictures of my children, but you stepped in and decided you're going to make a choice about it, right? And
Gotcha.
then the question is, you're sharing it with other partners and calling them friends, but wait a minute, I didn't say they were my friends either. Like, and
Uh-huh.
then you're recording the fact that I signed in, and then you're what time I posted my picture, and then wait a minute, you're recording the fact that my friends are looking at my picture, but you don't even let me know which friends have looked at my picture.
Right.
So you're my friends that know which of my friends looked at my picture, but I don't know which friends of my looked at my picture.
So
This is
so
a
this is
nightmare.
this
This
is
is the nightmare
highlighting,
we just live in,
yeah,
right?
this is just highlighting the centralization that we all are a part of, and it seemingly we like can't live without it at the moment.
Right.
But aside from like Facebook and all that stuff, there's a lot of
Well,
potential out there. I don't
this
know.
is the thing about NFTs that seems counterintuitive. Blockchain is
Uh-huh.
transparent, right? It's all
Right.
public, right? But the
Right.
cool thing about blockchain is it has a property of it that allows you to encrypt something using that public key.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could hide something. It's encrypted with your key publicly. Everybody can see it, but it's a jumbly mess. And the only person who
Right.
can, so yeah, it's public, but it's a public jumbly mess. The only person who can unjumbly mess it is the one who has the key. So in a way, it's like, yeah, everybody can see, but then it's actually more like it's more hidden
Mm-hmm.
than anything else is even. So there's this weird duality that happens there. And it's a hard thing to wrap your head around. We just allow that black box to be Facebook or Instagram right now. And we just
Mm-hmm.
go,
Mm-hmm.
ah, whatever. I
Yeah.
just pretend like I don't know.
Right.
But the
Well,
cool,
and
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
it's easy to ignore. But what's interesting to me about blockchain technology and kind of keeps me coming back to it is it doesn't have secrets. Like this is the
Mm.
weird kind of like, if you want to go and audit the Bitcoin code base and know how Bitcoin works, you can just head right over there and read the code. Anybody can. I can, you can. Anybody can. Any human that wants to participate. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to read, and maybe you need to know what you're doing a little bit,
Yep.
but that's available to everybody too. It's just up to you to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
You are not allowed to see the code of Facebook. You are not allowed to see the code of Twitter. We're putting this on Twitter. This is this is why Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter,
Right.
because he says Twitter should be on GitHub. We should all be able to see the algorithm. We should all be able to know the code that goes on that makes these choices for us. But
Right.
unfortunately, that's
Absolutely.
not the reality. And
And
we say, well, it's IP. They got to protect their. Fuck that.
so that
They've got
you
my
brought up
pictures of my children. Like, I want to know.
you brought up a really good point with GitHub and this.
Right.
It's a really good example of both community and sort of the advantages of everyone working together and submitting, changes which can only be changed by a certain number of people. But it's sort of like this big collaborative thing that everyone can see what's going on. So for those who don't know,
Right.
GitHub is this code sharing platform where you can go and see, like, so for me, I'm pretty amateur at all this stuff. As I'm making my new NFT collection, there are various codes that I can import into a Visual Studio Code program and start working on some of my random generated things. There are people that have been like, hey, there's a bug here, there's a bug there, this could be a cool update, whatever. It's this big community of big open source stuff. So kind of like, also, I'm sure what the internet was, kind of originally made for is just like sharing information and sharing ideas. This is just sort of more of a open source sort of thing. Yeah. So you have it pulled up right now with a project that you have with the 2222 world.
Yep.
And these are all of your iterations of code, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And people can comment on it and request like changes and all kinds of stuff. It's all there to see. It's all public.
yeah, I mean, what's really interesting about the way we're architecting things at NFTW and this 222 world is, so this code that I've written is some JavaScript code. But long story short, that's a chunk of code that we're going to send to your device.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be on your phone, or it's going to be on your browser, right? It's going to be here and it's going to be doing some work, right? And so if that code is going to go and be on your browser, or it's going to be in your phone, seems to me ethically, you should know what that code is. Does that seem crazy to you? Like that you would be able to know the code in your own device doing things for yourself?
Yeah.
Seems like
And
something you should be able to own, right?
absolutely.
Right.
And the more that and again, I'm super amateur at all this, but I am
Right.
starting to learn how to read it and learning to read all the little bits and pieces and what they do and what they mean. And, with all the readme files that come along with all the things that explain every piece of code and why it's there and what to do with it. It's just, I don't know.
But even like whether or not you can dig in there and read all the code, just having the ability, just having the right to, just having the right to go and say, look, I want to know what you're doing on my machine, and we in our projects can go, look, we're going to throw this JavaScript on your phone, and we're going to show you what that code is. We'll just be transparent about it. But then, the reason why we can do that is because the blockchain is the thing that gives you the trust, right? And so, like, our code is not ever going to be able to hack the blockchain. That's not a thing. We can't do that, right?
Right.
So we can trust that we can use the blockchain as our trust source, as our server of truth, right? And what's that blockchain going to do? It's going to say you can send some money to somebody else, or transfer that token to somebody else, or it could say decrypt this picture right? That's encrypted on my phone so I could look at it, or decrypt this video on my phone so I could look at it, right? And so then, that code takes the data and turns it into something that you're now doing on your device. And so that is to me, that architecture change, it's not super obvious, but it's something that people should get really excited and empowered about. The fact is that the code I run on my machine should be code that I know about. And that's, I don't know what there's like, it needs to be a new term for it or something. But this is what decentralization is really about. Like, the fact that what's cool, and there's a new final word that I think maybe we'll like end on, is one of the things that's always interesting to me is the interplanetary file system, and what makes that idea interesting. And what makes it real interesting to me is the current way files get shared is you go to an IP address, which is a computer somewhere, and you say, "Please, computer, give me a file," right? And it goes, "Here you go," right?
Yep.
And but usually you'll say, "Give me a file named SammyG.jpg. I want that picture of Sammy G with his shirt off," right? Oh, yes. And I type it in there. And then the server sends me back a picture, and it's SammyG.jpg. And I open up the picture, and it's Sammy G with his shirt on. Dang it. Oh, well. Well, that's okay. It had the same name, right? So, but it was at the same place that I thought I would be able to find that picture. But unfortunately, I went to a place and I asked for a name, and that's how the internet works now. Now with IPFS, instead of saying going to a place and asking for a named thing, I encrypted that picture, and I want 01 whatever. I want that exact picture, not something named Sammy G. I want the thing. And and then I asked the network, I go, "Does anybody have this exact thing?" And then Sammy G goes, "It's on my computer." I pinned it, and I'm like, "Sweet." And then my computer literally asks Sammy G, your computer, for that file. And your computer goes, "Here you go, son." And the internet is the little electrical cable, sends the electricity to my computer. And boom, your computer to my computer. I get that picture of you with your shirt off. And I'm like, yes, because that's exactly what I asked for. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Sammy goes, "I don't want that pinned on the internet anymore." And shoot, he takes it down. But then Mitch goes, "I still have it." So I pin it up there. And then, Sammy's wife comes along and goes, "Ooh, I really want to look at that picture of Sammy with his shirt off again." And she goes to your computer, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So, but since we don't exist in a world that's just IP based anymore, and we live in a content based world where the thing in of itself is of itself the address.
Yeah.
She goes, "Does anybody have this particular thing?" And I go, "Woohoo, I do." And then her phone literally gets it directly from my phone, and it goes directly to her. And there was no intermediaries that ever said, it wasn't like she went to Facebook and said, "Hey, Facebook, you got that picture still?" And Facebook goes, "Oh, our moderators took down all those Sammy J pictures because we looked at all the pictures and we saw that picture of Sammy G with his shirt off, and we didn't want anybody to see it, so we took it down." That's the world we live in now. In the content ID world, in IPFS world, it turns out that you're decentralized. So that means things can't be censored. So they exist in and of themselves.
Yeah. Which is a good sort of stopping point and for us to sort of think about and chew on, and then next time we can pick up with a little bit more of where we left off and bring a few new ideas to the table. But I think this was a great first run, good first episode. We'll do more. We'll introduce ourselves more as this thing evolves, as we evolve, as we get more knowledgeable and everything. And as this continues, it's only going to get more polished as well. So this was a great first run, and I'm super happy to start this project with you.
Yeah, man. Big, bold impact. I think New Frontier Works is here to open up some new stuff, talk about some new ideas, crack open some fresh technologies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've come up with a great process for building projects, and I think
Yep.
it's a really kind of, it's definitely a green field out there. There's so much. There's so many new terminology, new ideas to wrap our head around, new things to get excited about. And, I'm both freaked out, scared. You were
Yep.
talking about, that moment when you first get, your first key set up. And it's like, I still sort of have that experience almost every time I log into my crypto account and I
Yep.
send some money somewhere else. Like still gets me freaked out, and it gives me the tingles, and it's exciting. So there's so much fun to explore here, man. And I really look
Absolutely.
forward to not only exploring it with you, and this podcast, I think, is something where it's going to be fun, doing this on a regular basis and
Yeah.
exploring new ideas, but in the projects that we're going to build together, man. So right on,
Exactly.
dude.
All right on. Much love to everybody out there, and to you. Thanks for joining us and taking the time to listen. Hopefully you guys out there are all working on something spectacular. Like us, subscribe to us, comment on us, share us. We love you all very much, and we'll see you next time.
Naked for the win.
Naked for the win.